Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is my second long form video. So last time I talked about how the family culture and dynamic of my family anyway really lent itself to developing an addiction at a young age. And I have an idea of a series I'd like to do. I know I kind of discussed this as well, where I want to talk about my life and where I was and what was going on as it relates to milestones that are represented by my sobriety chips. But that's going to have to be down the road a little bit because today I want to talk about something else. So this weekend, while I was scrolling through all of my various streaming services, I happened upon a mini series. I'm sure most of you have heard of it. It's called Adolescence. Now I'm going to put a caveat here. I have not watched it. I do not have the emotional bandwidth to watch something like that right now. So I'm going to read you the Wikipedia overview, but I promise it is germane to what I want to talk about today. Okay, so this is what Wikipedia says. In an English town, armed police raid a family home and arrest Jamie Miller, a 13-year-old boy on suspicion of the murder of a classmate, Katie Leonard. Jamie is processed and held at a police station for questioning and then remanded in custody at a secure training center. Investigations at Jamie's school and interviews by a forensic psychologist reveal that Jamie has been chronically bullied via social media. Other students, including Katie, had targeted him on Instagram, calling him ugly and labeling him an incel. Jamie has come to internalize these things and lashes out at his psychologist. At home, Jamie's family deals with the community's backlash against them as they work together to cope with Jamie's arrest and subsequent detention. Okay. So first of all, I just want to give you guys a caveat here. I do not like the term incel culture. I don't like that because it is a stereotype, and I think it really, two things. It's no better than misogyny, and the other thing is it really minimizes the danger that some people really can be, and B, it lumps, hurting and harmless men into this category with these very radicalized people. And the reason that I want to talk about this show, Adolescence, is it's about what is radicalizing our adolescent boys. And I submit to you that what's radicalizing our adolescent boys are groomers. They are the manosphere influencers. They are the alpha males who are out here telling boys that they are entitled to women's bodies, to their votes, to their affection, for nothing more than being men. And again, I'm generalizing here, but I'm not talking about all men. I'm not talking about incels. I am talking about these people who have made a career of saying injurious things about women. These type of people, they're charismatic. They go out there and they tell these young boys that this is the way it's supposed to be for you. You are an alpha. You deserve this. You don't have to earn it. This is for you. And I'm not here to point my fingers. That is not the point of this video. The point of this video is to talk about grooming. This is about adult men and adult women appealing to children to get them to do things that they would not otherwise do and that they're not equipped to understand. either the consequences or even the permanence of their actions. The reason that I bring this up is that grooming has a big had a big effect on how I ended up with such a long-term addiction. My very close friend and I were groomed by the same man. He was her cousin, and he did just like most groomers do. He found a vulnerable part or piece that he could poke for us. And for the two of us, my friend had lost her father, lost him very tragically, unexpectedly, and unfortunately, I lost a very close friend right around the same time, and I was not able to be there for her in the way she needed me to be there for her because I was dealing with grief of my own, and I ended up going off to a boarding school for 2 semesters, and she had to deal with all of this grief, in a way that she shouldn't necessarily have had to. She and I had been very close for, almost 10 years at this point. So when I came back, that's when he came back to the area. And at first, the two of us were getting marijuana from him. He was able to get it and he gave it to us for cheap, you know, and then he started buying alcohol for us, and then it evolved. He was buying meth for us, and he was telling us, hey man, if you do this drug, you'll be able to stay up all night. You'll be able to drink as much as you want. You won't even get drunk, and we didn't have the frame of reference or the life experience to know that is absolutely not true. You can't just do a drug and not get drunk. It doesn't work that way. At the very best, you drink too much and you throw up. At worst, you end up with alcohol poisoning. You end up date raped. You end up in the hospital. You end up dead. You overdose. All of these things could happen, but why would he lie to us? She was his cousin. I was his girlfriend. Why would he lie to us? And now I know it was to his own ends. Whatever, he wanted to have someone to party with. Didn't matter to him how very dangerous this was. And that's the major problem with grooming is so many people think that what grooming entails is an adult man or an adult woman, convincing a teenager that they're an old soul and I can't believe you're 16 and having sex with them. And while yes, that is grooming, that is not it. That is not the only type of grooming out there. Other forms of grooming are manipulating children into doing things for you that you don't want to do yourself, you can't do yourself, or whatever your motivations are. It is tricking kids by getting their vulnerabilities and manipulating them. You're taking advantage of them. And that's how one night you go to sleep and you're 15 years old, and then you wake up in the morning and you're 33 and you have a hangover, and you're wondering to yourself, when will the alcohol make this pain go away? He promised me that this was going to solve all my problems. It wasn't going to hurt anymore. Everything was going to be fun. Everything was going to be tip top aces, and that's not how it is. They start off slow and they tell you, yeah, you're hurting now, but if you drink this alcohol, you're going to feel better. And you do, and the first time you do, and then they push it a little more and they push it a little more, and pretty soon, by the time you realize something has gone wrong, you are in it. You are, you're rooted, and tearing up your roots and trying to move on is extremely difficult. That is traumatic, and that's why grooming is so effective and why so many people say, well, I'm not a groomer. My victim married me, and I married my groomer, and it it was not until years later that I was willing to admit I had been tricked. I thought I was so smart and so mature, but I had been duped. I swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. I was not an old soul. I was not mature, you know. I may have been book smart, but I was not street smart. I got tricked. I did horrible things. I developed terrible habits, you know. I wasn't special or unique. I was just the one who fell for it. And that takes a lot. And it certainly doesn't help that you have a society that counts down to the 18th birthdays of celebrities like they did with the Olsen twins, like as if a girl being 18 instead of 17 makes it okay just because she's an adult. It doesn't change the fact that if you're a 55-year-old dating an 18-year-old, you've had the worst day of your life already. You've had the best days of your life already. You may have had these days before your partner was even born. You maybe have kids. You maybe had a wife. You had all of these things happen to you before your partner was born, and they can't share those emotions with you or those moments because they don't know them. They don't know those feelings, and they don't know what it's like. And we need to stop normalizing this behavior. You don't have to be a child to be groomed. I mean, it's abusive behavior is what it is. And I guess to bring it back to um this mini series again, I do not have the emotional bandwidth to watch this right now. This child is, fooled. He's already a victim, and that's where that vulnerable spot is. He's got this spot in his heart that he's begging, he's crying out for help, and then someone swooped in and knew exactly how to manipulate that to make him feel like that spot was filled back up again. And for my friend and I, that was what her cousin did with drugs and alcohol. My friend especially was really struggling with the death of her parent, and it it I can't imagine how hard it must have been for her. And I don't want to say names because these videos aren't meant to embarrass people or to call people out, but we were easy. She was an easy mark. I was an easy mark, And yes, I had lost my friend, but I was depressed as well, but it I feel especially bad for my friend because she literally went through the worst days of her life, and instead of protecting her, you know, someone was out there taking advantage of her. And I think that we both really suffered for that. And I can't speak for her. She and I lost touch for a really long time because, well, multiple reasons. But I know for me, the behaviors I learned at this young age from her cousin followed me for most of my adult life. I drank extremely heavily to try to tamp down those feelings of pain and trauma and anguish. And I, medicated myself with promiscuity and occasional drugs and things like that. And it got to a point where I knew if something didn't change, I was not going to be able to change anymore. It was going to be it for me. And I'm lucky that, you know, when I was a child, there wasn't social media, because I might have been one of those girls that meets a man online and goes to meet them in person and they're not who they say they are. And this is it's a symptom of bigger problems in the way that we as adults treat teenage children. you know they are becoming adults and you can't treat them like babies anymore, but we still have to be hands on with them. We have to give them these life experiences so that they know this isn't normal. It's you you have to find a line to draw to be candid with them about your past, and you want them to go into life as well prepared as possible, I guess. And for me, uh unfortunately that never happened. I am still dealing with the fallout from all of this, at almost 40 years old. And I know this has been a lot heavier than what I had planned, but um, next time I do want to talk about some of my chips, and we'll do some more lighthearted stuff. But I just I felt like I needed to really talk about just how dangerous grooming really is, and it's got permanent consequences. So just be careful out there. Think about how you talk to children, and talk to your own children, and make sure they understand that there is no such thing as a 16-year-old with an old soul just because a 30-year-old lube tech says she's hot. She's a child, and they might not want to hear that, but it's important. So just be careful, and take care of yourself and take care of the people you care about. We'll see you next time.